Okay, in this video we're now going to create our reference check. The reference check is of course somewhat different to the candidate application form or registration form because it's not the candidate that's going to be completing the reference check. There are other options for automating reference checks. For example, we can have the reference check sent directly to the referees. But in this example we're going to create a reference check that will be completed by somebody in your business who will ring the references and fill out the forms and capture the detail following their reference check phone call, assuming it's by phone call. So let's go and add that reference check on that basis. So the first thing we do is we create it. We're going to call it reference check onboarding. And now we're going to add our first question, and because we're not sending it to the candidate, of course, we don't need to attach a notification template to this reference check. So let's go and add our first question. I'm just going to copy and paste this in here. So you can see here that I'm asking, please describe your relationship with responder first name. Notice this concept of the merge. What the merge does is it fills, when the form is generated, it will actually fill the field with the name of the candidate. So it will say, please describe your relationship with Mary, where Mary is the candidate that we are doing the reference check for. And in this case, describe it, we'll get a text box because we want to capture the description provided by the referee on our form. So we'll save that. Then we'll have our next question, which will be another one which I'll copy and paste. Again, we're using the merge item. Again, it's a text response. Add our next question. This one is going to be a yes/no answer because they either terminated employment voluntary or not. In this case, if they say no, they did not terminate voluntary, we want to capture why. So we do that with a secondary question. We center it here, please provide details. And we want to capture those details in the text response. And now we want to know if they would rehire the person, so we'll add another question to capture that. Again, if they say no, they wouldn't, then we capture another secondary question. Text response. So now we'll add our last question, which is about a rating. And here we'll use our multi-choice option to do that. So then we capture poor. So the options are poor. And again, you can call them whatever you want. Okay. So there is our reference check form. So when your person in your business rings the referees, they're going to ask them these questions and they're going to capture that detail and update the form dynamically as they do so. Now I just want to introduce now the concept of reviewer questions. Now you notice here that I've been doing a slightly different user interface while I've been creating these questions than from the ones that I've done in the prior assessments. So if we click here, you can see that this is the user interface that we're doing. So they're just different options. This is what we call a list view, and this is what we call our standard view. Typically, we do use the standard view because when the user is going to be completing the form on their mobile phone, then we use the standard view. But if the person's going to be using it from a desktop computer, then we change. And given that typically the recruiter will be using their desktop, they'll be ringing from the office, you might want to use it as a list view because it's not going to go on the mobile phone. but you can have list view and then allow the responder to switch. So that's quite a useful thing for your users who are going to be utilizing this form when it's created. So let's so the first thing we'll do, I'll just come back to my questions, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come to the bottom question because I want to add the concept of a review. So I can say in here a review question. Okay, please select one. So think about this. What's going to happen is the reference checks are completed. When the reference checks are completed, they will be sent to somebody in your business for review. That could be the same person who's ringing the referee. It doesn't need to be anybody different, but it can be somebody different. So imagine that the idea behind the review in this example is we want the reviewer to decide whether the candidate should proceed to induction, or in fact, if the reference check did not go very well, mark them as unsuccessful. So the way we do that is we come to our options and we select here's unsuccessful and move to induction. So those are our two options. Again, I like to bold these because they present nicer when they're bolded. So we'll save that. But what we want to do is when we go unsuccessful here, notice I save. I cannot do a secondary question until I save. Okay, so I've saved that. Now I want to do a secondary. And the reason I want to do that is I want to move them directly to the status based on the response of the reviewer. So there we are. And then here, move to induction. I move to the status induction. So now we're saved and we have a reference check that is going to be generated automatically for the candidate when they move into the reference check stage. Now, also be aware that if your candidate has got 4 referees, then 4 reference checks will be created. So for each referee that has been captured on the candidate file, a reference check will be generated automatically when that candidate is placed in the reference check stage. So there is us creating a reference checks. So let's just come out of here. And essentially we've now got all of the foundations set to finalize our pipeline. And in the next video, we're going to bring it all together. Thank you very much.